Good day, class. I'm Mark, and this is Gonzo. And today, we're going to talk about how to trigger your DM.
That'll be easy. Mark,
what's up, Gonzo?
Why are we talking about how to trigger a game master or dungeon master?
Well, because sometimes the players can kind of do some things, kind of get on the DM's nerves, get under his skin a little bit.
So is this an instructional video on how to do that?
Or yeah, this is how to do that.
Okay,
yeah, this is how to do that. If you really want to get under their skin, this is how to do it.
The way to do it. All right, well, let's talk about the first one, which is being distracted at the table.
Okay.
Being distracted.
Got it.
Nothing is worse, I think, than having a player at the table, or even a dungeon master.
Right.
But we're talking about triggering a DM, but having someone at the table who's maybe on their phone. Or on social media, or on their iPad, or something like that, and they're not paying attention to the game in any shape or form. And when it's their turn, you get around to them, and oh yeah, what's going on? Yeah, I'll roll, or whatnot. That's really distracting to the rest of the players and to the dungeon master. They're not engaged with the storyline. Now there may be reasons to that, but that's a terrible one, I would say.
Yeah.
What about conversations?
Side conversations, just not talk. They're talking about everything that doesn't really relate to what's going on, and there's gonna be a little bit of that in the game, and that makes sense. But when it happens a lot, like it's their turn, and you're like they're still having this conversation. If that happens time and time again, it's like, yeah.
Well, and that's one of the reasons in our other videos, session 0 videos and stuff, but we've talked about meeting earlier if possible.
Yeah.
Before, if you want to start playing at 7, then meet at 6. Let some of the how you doing, what's going on in your life kind of thing get out of the way, so that you can delve into the game and jump right in and have fun. So.
Right. Another thing I would think too is not paying attention. They're just straight up not really paying attention to what's going on in the game when it's their turn. They even know what's happened in the game. To even know what to do next.
Yeah.
And it comes from, it could be that side conversation, it could be on the phone, but just not flat out paying attention. So like, oh, what's going on? Oh, there's a fight going on? Oh, I guess I should, maybe let me look and see what spell I should do.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I think that leads into something else that we would have to deal with, or another way to trigger your dungeon master.
Metagaming.
Metagaming. What is metagaming? I've heard, you hear that term a lot. What is metagaming?
Basically, that's doing something that's outside of your character knowledge. So, like, if you may know things as a person that the character in the game would know. For example, if the party were to split and your character is in one room and they have something happen in the other, you don't know what's going on. Your character does not know what's going on in the other room.
Oh, we've seen that a lot.
Yeah,
we've done that a lot.
Yeah, right.
On accident, I guess, or whatever. But and it's hard to help sometimes.
Yeah.
But you're right. If the party's split and so-and-so's in trouble over here and I'm just over here picking a lock or something, I'll be like, oh, yeah, I'll run over there and grab my bow out and all that. And that doesn't, unless this character yelled for help and you were within earshot or something, you wouldn't really know. So you would continue with what you were doing.
And it makes sense. I mean, you don't want to see your other teammates fall down or whatever. But the hard thing, I think, and I think it comes in time as a role player, that you learn that there's certain things I know and there's certain things I don't know. There's certain things I know as a person that my character doesn't know. And I think that just comes in time. But it makes sense that you kind of want to help, but sometimes you're just not there. You can't.
What about another form of metagaming that we have seen is that if you happen to be playing with someone who's really experienced with Dungeons and Dragons, and so they may either know the monster manual backwards and forwards, and including all the immunities and weaknesses of the monsters and all those things, or they may have played the adventure you're playing. If you're playing a pre-made adventure and they already have played it before, or
kind of what happened with our Tomb of Horrors game, I might add.
Kind of, and that was more to the point where we created characters to beat a dungeon, knowing we were going through a trap-filled dungeon. But it was the same kind of thing. If it was just dropped on us, I doubt we would have lived at all. But
that was kind of metagaming in itself, in that the people kind of had an idea of what Tomb of Horrors was, but the characters really shouldn't have known anything about it. Yeah, so that there was
and we actually reviewed Tomb of Horrors. The link will be above me or below me or in the description or all three. I don't know, but check out that video if you haven't already. That's a great thing to watch.
Another way of being to trigger your game master would be to be unprepared, Gonzo.
Yep. Unprepared. So you show up to the table and you didn't level up. And when you do level up at the table really quick, you add your hit points in, and you have to learn 3 new spells because you're going up to
wait,
6
let me
levels.
pick my spells.
Yeah, so then picking spells. Yeah, and spells are tough. So being unprepared is actually a pretty big distraction at the table. It's a pretty big faux pas, if you want to say.
Right. Absolutely.
There should be enough time between gameplay where you can do these things outside of it. Or when you show up, you just don't start the game until everyone's ready to go.
Yeah, that's true. That could be a part of that when people get there, they say, "Hey, good to see you," and all that, and then.
So being late to the actual game time, being late, showing up and disheveled and throwing, I forgot my dice. Can I borrow this? Can I do this?
You can borrow your dice.
That's a pretty big distraction.
I don't have my miniature here. I'll just grab one of these, and all of that's part of that. And we all have that. Life happens, and that may happen once or twice or whatever. But if you're doing it all the time, that's going to trigger your DM.
Yeah, for sure.
All right.
What about personal stuff?
Yeah, making everything about you.
Okay.
About I.
The big I.
The big I. So everything's about you.
So I bust open the door. And I look around and I see the skeleton. I just throw my hand axe right through his head.
Right.
Okay, roll. Okay, you hit him and he's dead. I search the body.
Right.
And then I take the loot and I...
I loot the bodies. Yeah. Yeah, we get that in our game too. Yeah. I search all the bodies.
That happens.
I go to the treasure chest. I bust it open. Yeah.
So that could really trigger your dungeon master.
Yeah.
In the form of, because of the big eye, they're forgetting that maybe some of the other players aren't having as much fun.
Right.
And it's actually a neat thing because they're excited.
Sure. Yeah. That means they're buying into the game.
Yeah. They're bought in. They're ready to go.
Yeah.
It's just that they're not allowing for teamwork to happen sometimes.
Right.
Or they may be the most boisterous, loudest person at the table, and because of that, their decision is taking precedence over maybe what somebody else would want to do or a group would want to do.
And sometimes they actually tell other players what to do. There's the person who you mentioned earlier about someone being the more experienced person, and they say, well, this is what you need to do. You need to do this, and you need to do that, and you cast that spell, and then I'll run in and do this, and then you do that, and pretty soon it was like, okay. And that really is, I think it might come a little natural to someone that's experienced and everyone else has never played before, and then maybe some of that teaching going on, maybe. But if they keep doing that, then it really starts to kind of kill the fun. It's like, can I play too? I mean,
right.
It kind of takes away from their role playing. Is what it does.
Right. All right. So that's 3 different ways to trigger your dungeon master.
Yeah, I would say another one is being that rules lawyer.
Oh boy, the rules lawyer.
So the rules lawyer.
Might as well give him a gavel.
Yeah. So basically, I've heard it doesn't really happen, I think, in any of our games really too much, where people are like, well, I read in the manual it says blah blah blah, and Matt Mercer said that this on his game, and Matt Colville said, but there is that where people, again, experienced ones have read the book, they've read the handbook, they've read the Monster Manual or whatever, and the Dungeon Master's Guide, and they're like, well, the rule says that,
So they start to correct either players or the Dungeon Master himself, and again, it's not a terrible thing because at least they're prepared and they know the rules and they know what they're doing. It's just that they're forgetting that fun trumps story and story trumps rules, at least in our games. Yeah. And so, at the end of the day, even if the ruling is wrong or the damage for your spell is a little bit off or whatever, if the Dungeon Master says, yeah, that's good enough or that's what I'll take, just let it be, because you want the game to keep flowing and not be bogged down with the,
absolutely
rules. Unless the whole table is a group of those rules lawyers. I don't know how you get anything done, but
a whole table full of them. So that's a good point. There is that does happen, and I think another thing that is in the rules is that the DM ultimately makes the decision. That's true. If they, if a person keeps saying, well, the rules say, the rules also say the Dungeon Master is the final say so.
Yeah, and it's not, and that's not for, the authority or power or whatever you want to say. That's not because of it, because they are trying to overpower the game. No. It's just that the Dungeon Master's number one goal is for everyone to have fun, and the best way for everybody to have fun is to keep the game moving.
Yeah, absolutely.
And so just make a decision. If you're dungeon mastering, even if it's your first time, and if someone says, well, what is the rule for climbing a rope? Make a decision and live by it. And everyone at the table should be just like, all right, yeah, it's good. Even if someone at the table knows the actual ruling for that little thing or whatever it may be.
Right.
Because that's not as important as what's going on in the game, the story that's being told, and the fun that's being had.
Speaking of fun being had, if you like our videos,
Mm-hmm.
don't forget to subscribe. It helps us build, helps these videos keep coming, and also don't forget to hit the notifications bell and hit like. All those things help our video go up to the top, and so more people can see this, not just you that have seen this video today. So what's another one? I would say cheating.
Cheating's one, yeah. Cheating.
What's that look like in a game that you can't lose?
Yeah, in a game that you make up the rules, yeah, exactly. Well, maybe we could use fudging.
Okay, fudging. All right. So
fudge.
What?
Think of
Fudge. So they're gonna eat. So they're gonna eat fudge.
Well,
shouldn't eat fudge at the table.
Right. That could be a distraction.
Yeah,
but
that is a distraction.
that would distract everyone at the table.
Yeah, that's true.
But yeah, fudging your rolls. Oh darn it, let me roll my. Oh gosh, here it is. Oh, what do you know? A critical.
Oh, critical.
And then next time. Oh darn.
Yeah.
Oh,
It's so weird every time it hits the floor. It's a critical.
It's just fudging your rolls. I think everyone's done it at some point. We actually did a little survey before when we were preparing this video with our players, and we were very surprised to know that all of them said they had fudged their rolls at some time.
Yeah, that was an epiphany right there.
It is what it is.
Yeah.
I've always been like harder to dice. I kind of like that, but not everyone's built that way, and I get it. Again, it's all about because you're having more fun if you're succeeding.
Yeah.
And if you're invested in your character and you have a great backstory and you're on session 12 and you're about to save your long lost sister and all of a sudden you roll a 1 when you're trying to pull her up out of the well.
Right.
That one could look very much like a 17 easily.
Happens.
Okay,
yeah.
17. What is it?
Yeah. Well, and there's other ways of just not besides rolls. There's you need to keep track of your spell slots. And look at that! I didn't use all those spell slots, and so you can put in extra spell slots, and then your hit points as you're keeping track of it. Oh, I'm still up, I'm still doing all right.
Luckily that didn't hurt me too bad.
Yeah, right. So that does happen a little bit, and that's if you want to really trigger your DM though, just do it all the time.
Yeah.
Do it all the time, and really in our game anyway, we make it a rule pretty much that you kind of monitor your own stuff, unless we see it being abused or anything, but. And I think that's the DM has to do a lot, and if he has to worry about how many spell slots this person still has and how many hit points, and let me see all your rules out here in the open, it kind of starts to cut into that fun factor, I think.
Yeah, for sure. Well,
what's another thing to trigger your DM?
All right, another one we thought about is your character you show up at the table and you've got a homebrewed character. He's a homebrewed race with a homebrewed class and a homebrewed magic item and a homebrewed suit of armor that glows at night. And
I homebrewed this homebrew at home, and I thought I'd try here tonight.
So we love homebrew, in fact, and homebrew just is the way of saying things that you kind of created that are not in the actual rule books, but that fit in the game. The key is it needs to be balanced, and the only way to know that is to run through it with your dungeon master previous to bringing it to the game. So if you show up at a table with a lot of homebrew and you didn't run it through with your DM, then it's very likely to trigger him to change that. Kick him out. Let's redo that. Let's revisit that later.
It puts the DM in a really bad spot, or the GM. In that you brought this in, and then you're just gonna do, and you came prepared. You're all excited about it, which you want that. You want them to be excited about this new character they design, and they come on, and then they're like, "Oh, I want to do this," and you're like, "Dude, that's not gonna work." You can't be some magic unicorn person in a steampunk world. That's not going to work so much, So
we'll see.
Yeah,
Mr. Unicorn Boy.
Unicorn Boy. Oh, so, I just know where that came from. That homebrew idea.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So okay. Speaking of Unicorn Boy, in the comment section below, would you please go ahead and comment some of the things that you can think of that would trigger your dungeon master, or things that you've seen in a game. These are obviously habits that we're talking about that can easily be rectified, and I think you were telling me that this is all covered in session 0.
Yeah, pretty much. I'm a teacher by trade, and one of the things I operate under the principle is that if it's bothering me, maybe I didn't do a good job of setting the expectations up front, and so really. That's important. That's part of that session 0. You communicate all these things. You're like, look, I need you to be present. I need you to not be metagaming. I don't want people here trying to overpower each other. And so you're just kind of laying that out, not like do this, do that,
Right.
but just having a conversation, just say, look, we want to have fun,
Trying
and
to
these are some of the
maximize,
things that would help us to have fun. And then later in the game, if they're still doing those things, then now you may have to be that guy who has to take the person aside and say, look, I appreciate you doing, but if you could maybe do this. But I would say that if you covered that in session 0, you probably wouldn't have to go to
Well,
that.
we have a great video in session 0. If you haven't watched it yet, the link will be, again, up, down in the description. I don't know. I don't do the editing, so
sure, it'll be
someone
up there
will decide
somewhere.
where it goes. You can cover my face with it. It's fine.
Yeah, we probably should. Yeah.
But,
get more views that way.
That'll be there. Oh, we definitely will. That'll be in there. And also, something I thought about that you were mentioning is this isn't just for players. This actually, some of it could be on the Dungeon Master. Right. And I know you and I talked about that too. But some of it could be if the Dungeon Master is not prepared.
Yeah.
Then you're going to get a lot of talking and people just on their phones and whatever.
Right.
If the Dungeon Master's too rulesy and bogging the game down with, keeping track of all those things, then you're going to get people fighting back with rules.
Right.
It can be, it's a group experience and it's a team game kind of thing, and it can be the Dungeon Master as well. So we're definitely not just pointing out players.
Good point.
It's just habits that all of us have, especially when we're learning the game.
Yeah.
I think most of these things iron out fairly quick.
Yeah,
and you can point them out. But
all right, well, I think that's all we have time for today, Gonzo.
I think so.
And with that,
Class dismissed.
This is Gonzo. I'm Mark. Let's do this. All right.
Maybe you'll remember better.
Maybe I will. This is that guy. I'm this guy. All right. Is it